25 minutes. That was my dog running in lightning speeds. What's going on, everyone? It's Arjay from Backyard Sprouts, and in today's video we have something just a little bit different. We're opening it up just slightly different for you guys today. When Alex and I recorded last week's episode on how to build your microgreen racks and how we set up our microgreen racks, we covered three major components. We covered the actual shelves or the rack. We covered the lights that we used. So if you recall, Alex is using LED lights and I'm using fluorescent lights. We didn't even get to go over the trays that we're using, all right? Because we just realized that the video itself was 25 minutes long, edited, completely edited. And in our current generation of ADD and ADHD, including myself, it was just way too long, way too long. So what we're doing here is we are doing a three-part series. We're just converting it into a three-part series. Last week's video, which I'm gonna link here, will cover, nope, it'll be over here. That covers our rack, our shelves, and we briefly touched over just the lights that we were using. And in today's episode, we will call it part 2. We are gonna go over the trays that we used. Next week's episode, stay tuned, we're gonna go over the lights in much detail, because in our research to find the best lights to use possible, we found all sorts of information, all sorts of conflicting information, all sorts of just random information. So we are going to dial into more detail next week about the lights that we chose and why we chose those lights. So we're not just gonna be like, yeah, we chose these awesome LED lights and these awesome fluorescent lights, and we're not gonna tell you why. We're actually gonna go over it in detail, because microgreens are so hot right now. It's exploding, as it's now being backed by science that the microgreens themselves contain anywhere between 4 to 40 times more nutrients than their mature parts. It's just gonna go exploding, and everyone is wanting to either grow commercially or grow for themselves and see what this hype is all about. So with that, people are gonna go searching for which shelves to use. They're gonna go searching for which trays to use, and more importantly, which grow lights to use. And that's gonna be next week's episode. This episode right here, part 2, is going to be about our trays. So I'm gonna bring it back to, we're gonna call it our vault, and we're gonna bring it back to last week's episode where I'm talking about the trays. It is bright. So going back into the shelving units, we were kind of explaining why my shelving units were much deeper, and they are 24 inches to be exact deep, so they're 2 feet, is because when we were looking at trays and which trays to use, we were, for those that are in the microgreen business, you guys know that you have your standard 10-20 trays. So it is 10 inches by 20 inches, 10-20. Now, the reason these trays are getting a lot of flack, obviously Alex and I are just starting, but the #1 review is it's flimsy as it doesn't have any soil in it, so I can't really tell, but I just feel like people are very careless about them, and they just toss them all over the place, and they tear and they break. We'll keep you posted as our journey and adventure pushes forward. I don't think we'll have any issues with them. We did, in our research, several companies that reviewed the Paperpot company that has their much larger flats. And these were the flats that Alex and I initially ordered. And these, they don't have hardly any give. They are heavy and they are durable, and they will absolutely last a long time, a very long time, if not the lifetime of your life. I don't even know if that makes sense. What are you saying, RJ? But anyway, so we were gonna use these. Now the shelves, if I were to order Alex's shelf, it would be too long. It wouldn't fit in the entire shelving unit. This is 23 inches and some change, like 3/4 or something like that. The downside why we are not going with this to begin with, one of two reasons. One, as Alex and I are starting off, there are several resources out there that gives the exact grams and weight of the seeds that we need for a 10 by 20 flat. And her and I kind of, since we're just starting, we don't want to revolutionize anything. We want to stick with tried and true grams because the grams gives you the proper densities of the microgreens. And if you guys watch Curtis's video, he does a trial and tribulations video where he was messing with certain grams and he would put maybe sun shoots at 55 grams or 45 grams or something like that, right? And they would grow, but because it lacked the density to all stand up and lean on each other, they all started falling down. The sun shoots and certain microgreens started falling down, right? With that being said, these are awesome, but we don't have the densities and the grams and the resources to kind of play with it. And we will down the road. I promise you, we will down the road. Just start messing with these flats and start doing our trials and tribulations on how many grams it takes to fill these Paperpot flats properly. But the second issue why we didn't go with these and we just went with your standard 10-20 flats is if you watch certain people, they're in warehouses, they're outdoors, their greenhouses are outdoors. This sucker has holes. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get closer. Holes. And that's natural. That's okay. The holes are drain holes. So that's perfectly fine. But these new Paperpot flats don't have a non-hole version. Our microgreen setup is indoors. So if we water these and there happens to be an excess amount of water, it'll just flow right through into our lights. So we couldn't have that. Until we figure out a permanent solution to what we can do for the holes, we don't want to mess with it right now. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. No ifs, no ands, no buts. We want to mess and play with things that have been tried and true. And for now, that is your standard 10 by 20 microgreen flat. All right? And we're fine with that. We're gonna sell these. We're going to mess with these. We're gonna do our trials and tribulations when we have the time with the Paperpot company flats. But for now, we're gonna do the 10 by 20 flats because there are guides we can follow that say for this microgreen, you only need 65 grams to get the proper density. Perfect. That's what we're gonna do. After that, then we might go move on to the Paperpot company. But for now, starting out, we're using these suckers, 10 by 20 flats. All right, so I hope you guys found that video useful. We went over the pros and cons of why we didn't go with the Paperpot company's trays or nursery flats. As you just watched, we do intend and we do plan on using those in the near future. But as Alex and myself are just starting to get going here, we want to stick with something that's tried and true, something that's been working for everyone for a long time. And you know, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to revolutionize anything right off the bat. When we get much better, when we have some experience and we have some time under our belt, then we will go ahead and mess with the Paperpot company nursery flats and see if we can use that thing, because that hands down is just the way it feels is a lot more durable. But we will stick with the 10-20 flats for now. If you guys have any comments, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, we are trying to build a community of like minds, so we would absolutely love it if you guys hit that like and subscribe button so you guys get the latest on our urban farming adventure. And we will see you guys next time.